Hello, my name is Yoganand Michael Carroll, and I'm the founder of the Pranakriya School of Yoga Healing Arts. And I'm happy to share this information that may be helpful to you as you prepare to take one of our Deepening the Asana Experience programs. I hope your program gives you everything that you're expecting and more. To support you getting the most from your time, I want to give you some information about the Pranakriya approach to asana. This is where your teacher will be coming from in the delivery of your program. What you take from the program and what you do with the material is, of course, completely your choice. Pranakriya approaches yoga from an academic perspective. When Hatha Yoga came to America from the East, the teachers observed that we are a very cerebral society. We approached yoga as we would any other purchase and wanted to understand the value before practicing it. We wanted to compare approaches even before getting on the mat. Most Indian teachers from this time encouraged us to set our minds aside and just do the practices. Many of my teachers told me things like, you don't need to understand the meaning of the chants or the Sanskrit words, just participate. This has been very good advice for us as students, but as teachers, a greater understanding is necessary, especially as we present yoga as an exercise in an environment where exercise is understood from a scientific and medical perspective. Or we may present yoga as a healing modality where healing is associated with body processes and is measured with statistics. Without a deeper understanding of the yoga from the traditions, many of us yoga teachers have found a voice drawn from our own intention for the practice or the benefits that we have observed. This has led to a state where yoga is whatever a yoga teacher says that it is. So in Pranakriya, we go back to the old sources to see what yoga was in the past. But when we do that, we find ideas, techniques, and practices that would not be attractive or appropriate for most modern students. Our next task is to look closely and determine what were the goals of the techniques that were valued by the original practitioners. Then we ask, would those goals be valued? Would they be useful to modern students? If the answer is yes, we explore how we can adapt this practice for modern audiences and help them to gain those benefits. As you prepare to enter the Deepening the Asana Experience Advanced Yoga Teacher Training Program, first, let's step back in time and briefly review the roots of asana. Originally, the postures had no worldly value at all. The ancient Indian world was one in which spirit and matter were separate things that were strongly entwined. The goal of the practices was to separate them. Yoga practice was considered time out of the world, time spent developing a subtle body that, if made strong enough, would become your vehicle away from the world of matter and into the world of spirit. Asanas were practiced not for health but for transcendence. Asanas generated energies in the physical body that were channeled to lead to spiritual experience. Originally, yoga was a religion. Like other religions, it included prayerful practices as well as a priesthood, which evolved to become a personal teacher-student relationship. If a teacher agreed to take on a student, it was a lifetime relationship that was about renouncing worldly pursuits and ego fragmentation. Practices were given by the teacher specifically for each student that might include a wide range of restraints, observances, mantras, pranayamas, asanas, and meditations. Practices that built intensity were followed by practices bringing softness for nurturance and integration. Yoga began as a developmental process that the student moved through. By the 1800s, yoga nearly died out after much influence by Europeans, especially by the British. The British confused yoga with penance as it was practiced in medieval Christianity, and Indians were embarrassed when seen as being backwards and superstitious. Later, Indian families that could afford it would send their children to Europe for a proper education. These British-educated Indians returned home with Western scientific understanding and stripped the mysticism from their heritage. The Indian independence movement was led by many of these European-educated young men and women who wanted their culture to appear respectable to the Europeans. By the early 1900s, yoga was revived as part of the Indian independence movement. Many ancient Hatha Yoga texts were searched to find an Indian version of the exercises that were being developed in the West and taught in India through the British school system, such as British calisthenics and Swedish gymnastics. The revolutionists at this time made all the texts somewhat equal as they tried to redefine their heritage by selecting various excerpts from the collection. Vinyasa yoga, as practiced now in the West, did not exist until about 100 years ago. Basically, vinyasa was developed to compete with the Swedish gymnastics that were popular at that particular time. In the early 1900s, as a patriotic move, yoga was taught in the schools. They developed a yoga for teenagers designed to help them to grow, not as mystics, but as contributing members of society. Now, in the 21st century, most people aren't interested in another religion. Some still feel that yoga conflicts with their own religion. The one-to-one student-teacher relationship has morphed into group classes or mindful movement classes. Often approaches are split into athletic vinyasa practices and contemplative or meditative practices. Instead of being a developmental practice, most yoga has become experiential. Participants cannot practice consistently due to householder demands and often practice under the guidance of several different teachers. The best most teachers can do now is to create an experience. Athletic yoga teachers have worked hard to provide people with good workout experiences and avoid injuries, and that is very important. But without an understanding of where yoga came from, we're making it up as we go. And something is lost. Something that in Prana Kriya we think is very important. I think most people who practice yoga feel that there are benefits that are beyond words. They seek the effects of yoga, but either do not know that they are derived from an ancient tradition or do not have the guidance to seek understanding or deeper experiences. In Prana Kriya, we encourage yoga teachers to consider that the most powerful effects of yoga practice are on the heart and the mind, even if you believe students are only there for physical fitness. It is possible and sometimes very important to bring back missing pieces from the tradition. Always remember, yoga was originally a developmental process, not just an experiential process. So how could the students in front of you evolve in knowledge of the self and personal empowerment? A common thread through all ancient and modern yoga is that there is much more to life than what we see. In particular, Tantric Hatha Yoga says, we do not know who we are because of the matrix of structures and forces that tell us who we are and how we should act. We are all conditioned by our society and expect ourselves to act in certain ways. So most of us walk around small on the inside and try to be okay. We can all relate to examples in society of gay people who were ashamed, atheists living in a Catholic household afraid to speak out, or highly sensitive people who were bullied, and the list goes on. We can't really know who we are because it's too distorted. The Tantrics wanted to be a good person in the world, but on the mat, they wanted to practice open-ended inquiry. They wanted to feel all the hate, fear, ecstasy, joy, bliss, pain that is inside them without any of the conditioning. Historically, gurus, seekers and practitioners of yoga supported this journey. They said we have to step outside of comfort to see the truth. A huge part of practice is using the tools of asana, pranayama, and meditation to help students remember what is true. The postures shine a light inside to help us and our students explore greater truths to replace lesser truths. And at the 500-hour level, as a teacher, you are teaching bodies, not postures. About Prana Kriya Yoga. Swami Kripalu, my teacher, said, ordinary yoga makes you a good soldier. Deeper yoga makes you a good general. The soldier does what they are told and says, my teacher says this, so that is what I will do. A general assesses the situation and makes the best choice that they can see. This level of training requires skillful assessment of yourself and your students. Ancient postures were practiced in a variety of ways to meet different goals that emerged as the students practiced and grew. There is no standard right way to practice. At the training level, we want to offer you variations of postures and approaches that you can go out and apply in ways that best suit who is in front of you and what works for you in your body. We want you to explore ways to combine the postures to come up with new ways to grow and to experience. We want to teach you to be asana researchers rather than teaching a specific strict posture that looks a certain way on each body. Prana Kriya is student-based, soft but challenging, internal, and encourages flexibility and diversity on all levels. Remember, originally the postures were practiced for no other reason than to take us to places to experience our irrational identity patterns. Today, most of us do what validates our identity. Yoga was meant to lead to self-discovery, self-mastery, and help us to be wide open, to feel greater degrees of self-esteem, to lead to mystical experiences, to feel more fully alive. I hope you enjoy your Deepening Your Asana Experience program. I wish you every success in your practice and in your teaching. Jai Bhagwan.